For the last 15 years, the global financial system has run on one core assumption. When the Federal Reserve tells you what they're going to do, you believe them. You press it in. You allocate capital based on it. You trust the guidance. Well, that era is officially over. We are watching the real-time collapse of central bank credibility. It started with inflation is transitory. It continued with rate cuts that never really materialized. And now we have reached a point where the smartest money in the world is actively betting against what the central banks are saying. This is not just a story about the Fed making a few bad forecasts. This is a structural breakdown in how monetary policy works. And if you're allocating capital right now based on what Jerome Powell says is going to happen next year, you're playing a very dangerous game. And let me explain you why. Hi, I'm Thyll from Ankova. Today, we need to talk about the growing gap between what central bank says and what actually happens. I'm going to break down exactly why the institutions that control the cost of money have lost their ability to forecast it, why the political pressure on them is getting worse, and most importantly, how you need to change your investing strategy when the compass is broken. So, let's get into it. To understand what is actually breaking, you have to understand a concept called forward guidance. After the 2008 financial crisis, central banks realized something powerful. They realized they didn't always have to actually change interest rates to move the market. They just had to tell the market what they were going to do in the future. So if the Fed says we are going to keep rates at 0 for 3 years, businesses borrow money, consumers buy houses today. The market does the work for them. It is kind of like a Jedi mind trick. You move the economy using nothing but words. But that trick only works if people actually believe you. It requires an immaculate track record, and over the last 4 years, that track record has been completely destroyed. Look at the timeline. In 2021, they told us inflation was transitory. They were wrong. In 2022, they had to panic hike rates as the fastest pace in 40 years to fix that mistake. In late 2023, they published their dot plot signaling multiple rate cuts for 2024. The market priced them in. Investors positioned for them. And by the end of 2024, the cuts didn't happen. The guidance was wrong once again. And this isn't just the US, the ECB in Europe, the Bank of England, the Reserve Bank of Australia. They all navigated a post-pandemic world with forecasts that were consistently wildly inaccurate. And when the guidance is wrong this many times, the tool breaks. Investors stop listening to the signal and they actually start demanding actual data. So, why are the smartest economists in the world suddenly so bad at forecasting? There are two real reasons. First, their models are broken. Central bank forecasting models were built during a 20-year period of perfect globalization, cheap energy, and zero geopolitical conflict. That world doesn't exist anymore. You cannot use a 2015 model to predict inflation in a world with fractured supply chains, 2 major wars, and massive energy volatility. Second, and this is the one actually nobody wants to talk about. The political pressure is real. Central banks are supposed to be independent, but the pressure from politicians to avoid recessions, to keep employment high, and to cut rates before elections is massive. And that pressure creates a systemic bias. It forces central banks to publish optimistic forecasts even when the math doesn't actually support them. And this political dimension is accelerating. Look at the United States right now. The tension between the executive branch and the Federal Reserve is entirely public. Politicians are openly demanding rate cuts and questioning the Fed's independence. Now, why does this matter? Because the moment the bond market believes that interest rates are being set to win an election, rather than to control inflation, the currency is compromised. We have seen this movie before. Look at Turkey. Look at Argentina. When political interference destroys central bank independence, the currency collapses. Now, I'm not saying the US dollar is going to collapse, and I'm not saying it's the Turkish lira. But what I'm saying is that the political dynamics that destroy emerging market currencies are starting to creep into the institutions we thought were immune to them. So, what does a world without central bank credibility actually look like for your portfolio? It means structurally higher volatility. Because there is no longer a trusted anchor for where rates are going. Every single inflation print, every single jobs report caused the market to violently reprice. So if you're a business owner or an investor making long-term capital allocation decisions, you can no longer rely on the Fed's dot plot as a roadmap. The cost of capital over the next 5 years is highly uncertain. The rational response is to shorten your duration, build more flexibility into your debt structures, and weight the actual incoming data far more heavily than whatever the Fed chairman says at a press conference. Central banks are not going away, but their superpower, the ability to control the market just by talking, well, that one is gone. We are entering an era of data dependence and high volatility. So, if you want to understand how to structure your assets, protect your capital, and navigate a macro environment where the old rules no longer apply, hit the link in the description. We work with established investors on exactly this, every single day. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.